right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story that I've got for you guys today, a big Ramy and Dennis James story. So, big Ramy is really looking to be in pretty incredible shape at this point in his post-Olympia preparation. And that's the point of these stories. Dennis James put up these posing videos of Ramy because him and Chad have been making a point to say that Ramy's preparation for next year's Olympia 2022 has already begun. Now, Ramy's also getting ready to go over and make an appearance at this show that he's affiliated with in his home country in Cairo, Egypt. And that's going to be a show we're going to talk about later in the video. It's put on by his sponsor, KO Squad. But honestly, I think Ramy looks incredible in these videos. And that now we're, a couple weeks, 2.5 weeks post-Olympia, where most of the guys that are done, the guys that aren't competing anytime soon, have pretty much shut things down. They're probably enjoying some cheap meals and probably not thinking about prep for maybe a couple months. But we know that this next transition period, this next prep between this Olympia and the next Olympia is very important with Ramy specifically because of what Chad Nichols, his coach, told us just about a week ago. He told us that for this past Olympia prep, Ramy only prepped from July to October, between July and the Olympia for this Olympia. Then between the last Olympia in 2020 and July, apparently they're saying that Ramy did not train or prep at all because of whatever personal issues he was having. So he only had this very short window to prep, but they're making a big deal, Dennis and Chad, to let people know, and Dennis says this repeatedly in these stories, that Ramy is going to be prepping nonstop for this upcoming Olympia, prepping and training, and he says that prep has already begun, and it's pretty evident that it has because he still looks like he's in pretty damn near Olympia shape based on what we're seeing in these videos. And I think maybe Ramy and his team realized the door was left open a little bit this year. It was closer than it was last year. I think Ramy looked better last year than he looked this year. You've got guys like Hadi Choopan, a lot of people making noise saying, look, Hadi could have won that show. Hadi was in better shape than Ramy and Brandon. I think most people would agree with that. I think most people would agree that Hadi was the best conditioned guy on that stage. So when you've got guys like Hadi knocking on that door, I think they realize that next year there's no wiggle room. They can't be messing around. So it's going to be a consistent prep all the way through. And I got to say, Ramy looks really good to me for a guy that he's already done with his competition. I mean, he looks impressive. But let's talk about this show that Ramy is affiliated with that his sponsors are putting on in Egypt. Again, Ramy's home country, the 2021 Pro League KO Squad competition. Now, they had put out a competitor list for this a couple days ago, and it was very incomplete. Now, this appears to be the complete competitor list. So there's a couple big names in here, a couple names you guys probably haven't heard of. So let's go through this really quickly here. The men's open bodybuilding list. Behruz Talbani Arbagani, Victor Joel Ray Kano, Samson Dauda, Muhammad El Imam, so there's a name you might be familiar with, Ralph Farah, Kevin Gerbhart, Regan Grimes, Stanimal is in there. Even more interesting here, Cedric McMillan, Poirier Payan, Muhammad Shaban is in there, Bikramet Singh, Ahmad Mustafa El Said Mustafa El Maromi, Hamad Ahmad Muhammad Abd El Latif, Hassan Mustafa Abdallah Taha Mahmoud, Khalid Awani Muhammad Taha Muhammad Abe El Fatah Hassan. That felt like kind of a mouth workout there, but I found this interesting because we knew Regan was doing it. I had heard some rumors that Ian Valier and Nathan Diasha were possibly going to jump in this lineup. I also heard some rumors that Patrick Moore might. We know that Patrick's not going to compete again until 2023. But the interesting thing to me is that we see Cedric's name added to this list where it wasn't in that first one that they came out with. And again, we haven't heard anything at all actually from Cedric McMillan after the Legion Sports Festival. So if you guys didn't know, Cedric didn't make the first call out at the Legion Sports Festival, which was the show this past weekend at prejudging. After that, he didn't show up at the night show. Now, Bob Ciccarello, who was announcing this show, said that the reason Cedric didn't show up was he wasn't feeling well. Now, a lot of people have kind of speculated the reason he didn't show up is because he was disappointed or maybe ashamed of how he looked. He didn't like the fact that he didn't make the first call. He posted that kind of ominous post on his story saying, well, it's official now, I suck. And since he's posted that and since he skipped out on that finals, we haven't heard anything from him on social media. His Instagram, there's been nothing posted. So I'm kind of wondering if he's actually going to be competing in this show or not, if his name was added to this list prior to Legion, prior to him skipping the finals, or if this was something that was done recently and he's looking for redemption here. But I'm kind of curious to see whether or not he shows up. Now, obviously, I think based on his appearance last week or this past weekend, Regan Grimes is the standout frontrunner for me. I've said this before, but I think we saw the best version of Regan that we've ever seen at any point in his career as far as his men's open bodybuilding packages. At this Legion Sports Festival where Regan took second, he looked fantastic there. And hopefully, it seems like working with Milo so far has treated him very well. He came in a lot sharper for that Legion show, and maybe he'll make even more improvements between Legion and this KO show in Egypt, but who knows? Maybe I'm assuming it's a pretty grueling flight between there and here. But this is going to be this weekend. This is going to be on Halloween, October 31st. So I'm kind of interested to see how Regan looks here. And if he can win this show, I believe this is an Olympia qualifier for next year for the winner. And then the week after that, you've got the Prague Pro, which is going to have Rolly and Nathan and possibly Rafael Brandao. So that's going to be a good show. Then the week after that, you've got the Romania Muscle Fest. So we still got some stuff to look forward to, some Olympia qualifiers to watch out for. So that's all well and good. Now, I also wanted to talk about James Hollingshead here. So I think a lot of people were surprised to see that at the 2021 Mr. Olympia, James Hollingshead was kind of towards the bottom of the call-outs at the Olympia. He was 12th place. That's where he finished. A lot of people expected him to crack the top 10. Some people even predicted he would crack the top 6. He looked really impressive in a lot of the updates going into the show. He looked really hard, grainy, full, and then kind of looked a little bit smaller and flatter, I think, at the actual show. And he recently announced in a video on Redcon 1's channel that he's actually going to be moving to the United States. I believe he said something like there's a 5-year plan for him to try to win the Olympia title, and he's going to live in the States to accomplish that. So whatever the reason was, it looked like he looked a lot different on stage, and he looked in the Instagram pictures, and you could see there was like a significant difference in fullness. Was one of the bigger things I noticed. I almost thought he looked small even in some of those call-outs that he was in. So I'm wondering, I would imagine it's going to be a very advantageous thing because he was living in the UK. That is a very long flight. That is a lot of travel. He's going to be able to do more over here, obviously, with his sponsor, Redcon 1. But maybe that will make his prep for next year even easier. Now, I believe he's got to re-qualify for the Olympia. And I say I believe because last year, I believe he qualified for 2020 and 2021 Olympias back-to-back and then skipped 2020. Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see how that works out for James for next year's Olympia, assuming he's trying to get to next year's Olympia. Actually, let's go ahead and transition here. Let's look at the competitor list thus far. Just to give you guys an idea of a benchmark going into that show, or going into these upcoming shows that are going to be qualifying more people for next year's Olympia 2022. So far, Nick Walker, Nathan Diasha, Big Ramy, Brandon Curry, Hadi Chupin, and Hunter Labrada are already qualified, with Samson Dowda, Ian Valier, and Steve Kuklo leading the point standings with 11, 10, and 9 points consecutively. So a lot of that is probably going to change over the next couple of months as these shows start to roll along. We're going to see a lot of names added to that list, and a lot of the point standings probably are going to start changing. And I've said this before, just because the Olympia is over does not mean the bodybuilding season and the bodybuilding excitement has to come to an end, because there's a lot of stuff right around the corner that we're going to be talking about. So make sure you subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed already. Now, one last thing I wanted to address in this video, Patrick Moore. So you guys saw the post that he put up yesterday where he talked about how he's going to be taking some significant time off to make improvements, and he's going to be taking time off until 2023. And one of the reasons that he gave for not having enough time to really take a extended off season was because he felt the need to give his sponsors the maximum amount of exposure by competing, and to really make the sponsors happy was one of the reasons he gave for why he wasn't taking a bunch of time in between competitions. Now, that was interpreted by some as an excuse where he blamed the sponsors. Personally, I did not interpret it that way. I did not take it that way. He responded on his story to some of the people saying that. He says, sponsors are not to blame for placings. Let's do the math. If you are competing as you should to represent a brand, you are not taking an off season. No off season equals no growth. No growth makes it difficult to improve placings. So that is what he meant by the sponsorship thing. I don't think he was intending to try to blame how he looked on having a sponsor. Personally, I like Patrick a lot. I like his physique a lot. I like what he brings to men's open bodybuilding, and I really hope that he is able to utilize the time that he takes off. I mean, 2023, that could be potentially 2 years of time for him to grow and improve if he comes back at all. And I really hope he comes back with a bang because I love his physique. And like I said, I love what he brings to men's open bodybuilding. He brings something different. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about all these stories mentioned in today's video. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. It helps out a lot with the algorithm. So if you liked the video, like the video. It's free. It's easy. Just click that thumbs up. If you love me, just do it. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Nick Strength and Power signing out.